Hello, everyone. Today we're looking at how we can apply visual design principles to a simple e-learning project. Most of you have probably seen the 10-minute YouTube video where I introduce you to those principles. So if you're watching the recording and you haven't, then check that video out first. And I also made that file available that we're going to go through today. And again, if you're watching the recording, you might want to pause this and check out and try applying these principles to the file yourself before seeing what we do here on this session. So I was thinking we could start this off. Well, let me share my screen. First, we'll look at the file we're starting with, and then we've had a bunch of people from the community take a stab at updating this file themselves. So we'll show off some people's work before we apply these principles together. All right, so here we go here. So this is the file that I made available, and this is the file we're going to be fixing up. So it's Devlin Peck's Guide to Health and Wellness. You can see we have some next buttons down here. We have a Get Started button. We'll get started. We can learn more about eating healthy or exercising. We'll dive into this. Just some fake text and this nice illustration. We'll learn about exercising. Here we are. Nice. We got a nice rainbow of colors for these next buttons. And just a simple question right here. And here we are, that's the whole course. We can either exit or restart. So this is the project we're going to be fixing up here together. As you can see, stuff isn't spaced very well. We've got stuff all over the place, not a whole lot of consistency. So maybe let's start by seeing what everyone else did. So this is from Joe Gramlich. Here's his attempt at fixing this up. And I'm not going to give too much feedback right now just because I want to make sure we have time to get through everything. But if you are on this call and at the end you want specific feedback on your projects, I think we might have time for that. So let's see Joe's. This nice layout here. Let's learn more. We can see it's spaced a bit better, a bit more consistency. Nice. And there we are. Let's look at Caitlin Jordan's. Here's my Guide to Health and Wellness. This layout, I didn't trick too many people with this one. I think everyone got the right idea about how to position this. Nice, much more consistent. Here we are. We'll look at Christy Mertz. Yeah, that slide looks the same on a lot of people's. Like I said, this is what it looked like originally. Let's look back at that. And yeah, I didn't trick anyone with this. So good stuff there. Nice contrast here. All right, exit or restart. I'm going through these quickly. I just want to give everyone an idea of how other people took this challenge, just so you can see, other approaches to this. You got some really bold contrast with these settings. All right. This one is Joe Stoops. Okay, nice. We got a little variety here. I like this. Cool. See, everyone has slightly different takes on these layouts. This one is Brianna Allen's. Cool. All right. This one's Mary Montgomery's. So I guess the rules, so to speak, were to not add anything to this, but everyone took a different approach. Mary clearly added some cool visual effects to these illustrations and a background color and some animation. So this is pretty neat. Cool. And I like how Mary found one of these illustrations to match up with each one of these options. So this is pretty cool. All right, we did it. Nice. All right. This one is from Shara Andrade. I hope I pronounced that right or close to right. Cool, nice, minimal. I like how this looks. A lot of similar approaches you're seeing here. This one's from Rin Kerr. See, everyone got this, everyone. Cool, the spacing worked out a bit here. All right, we're working through a few more. This one's from Ivan Rosas, and we have some additional elements added we can see. Cool, cool. Nice, we got some nice layering with this. All right, nice bold contrast. Cool. This is from Izzy Lara. All right. Good stuff. All right, Nicole Sidlewski. We're almost through a few more of these, but I hope this is helping everyone see what other designers are doing. All right, Stephanie Redman here. We have a switch. We switched up the button design, it looks like. Click the check mark to view it. Okay. Nice, incorporating the illustrations here. All right. And finally, we have Dahlia Darwish. Let's look at this sample, and then we'll dive into this together. Cool. Using that black and white. Dahlia is using my branding, the black and white branding here. All right, cool. So that is all of them. And I'm sure others have tried this and didn't share them with me, but that's okay. So let's dive into this together. So there are a handful of principles we're applying here. The four main ones are contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. Okay, so there are a couple of others like negative space and balance that I'll talk about as well. But I was thinking how we approach this is just by applying one principle at a time, and we'll see how this thing slowly starts looking a bit better. Okay, I see there's a. Okay, Eve asked if I can include a YouTube link. Yeah, if someone can share that. Taylor, maybe you can share that in the chat. But feel free to ask questions if you have them as we go. But we'll start with contrast here. So contrast can look different. Like you can have contrast in size. You can have contrast in color. You can have contrast in like the shapes and forms that you're using. But we'll keep it simple. Let's start with contrast in this text, okay? So we're gonna apply this to the text itself. Specifically around text weight and size. So you can see that we already have a lot of contrast in the color here. We have this black color on a white background. That's like the most contrast you can get in color. But we don't have a lot of contrast in size. So I think since the course's topic here is on health and wellness, I think that piece right here is the most important. So let's maybe change that text size to something like 44. So we have that nice and big. And Devlin Peck's guide 2, that's a bit more like a branding element or, presented by Devlin Peck. That's not so important. So maybe we can make that much smaller, like size 12. Okay. So I'm not gonna touch the spacing right now. It's not going to look great when we fix contrast alone because there are other elements we need to address. But instead of just making this smaller, you can see how they're both bold right now. Let's get rid of the bolding on this to make it a bit smaller of a weight. Okay. So again, we're going to want these closer together and arranged differently. We will get there in a bit, but let's apply this. Let's apply this throughout. Okay. So, so this is good. We don't need to address anything here. Let's look at this slide. Okay, so here we have this like heading, this bold heading and this body text. So right now we have some contrast in size, but we can add even more contrast. This body text is size 12 and this heading is size 20. Let's make this size 24 and bold. Okay, so you see now the heading already stands out a lot more just by changing the contrast in the size and the weight. Okay, so we'll go to the next scene. Exercising. So again, this one already is size 24. That's good. We'll make this bold. Text size is 12, perfect. And what do we have left here? We have this question. Again, we want the person to read the question first. So let's make this be the big and bold thing, like we're the same thing we were doing with the heading. So we'll make this bold and size 24. And that stands out a lot more now than when we just had it as the same size and weight as these answer choices. So we're looking good there. And this looks good. We already have this. We have this big 44 text size, which we're using for like the title. We'll use that for the congrats too. And this size 12 body text. Any questions about how we just applied contrast to this text boxes? And Jason, in the meantime, asked if this presentation is recorded. Yes, you can view it from the same link, and in a couple of weeks from now, I'll upload it on YouTube. All right, if we have no questions, and again, we can have contrast in many different ways, but just to start with it and keep it simple, we're only looking at it in relation to these text boxes. And okay, and with color, like a lot of the color is already taken care of. You notice we have this white on this dark blue, this black text on this white. These text boxes are a little light. Like the contrast between this isn't super intense, but if we had a background color like something like this, you can see we would definitely want more contrast here just in the color, so that, well, one, this would be a bit more accessible for people with vision, who don't have perfect vision, basically, but also just to make it look a bit more visually interesting by having that darker background. Yvonne asked if I usually have a rule of thumb for headings to body text. Yeah, there's actually this great video from the future, and maybe someone can share that link as well. It's like typography 101 or something like that. It's a 3-minute video with some really basic type rules. And the rule that Chris Doe or the future offered in that video is like 2-to-1. So if your body text is size 12, make your like heading text size 24. So see, we have 12 here and 24 here. So that's like a rule of thumb, I would say. You don't always have to stick to that. Like if we look at the title screen, I think this is 44 and this is 12. So yeah, use your judgment, but 2-to-1 is a good rule of thumb. Hope that helps. So the next thing we want to dig into here is alignment. Okay, so this is a really important one. And how I explain this in the YouTube video is, imagine that there are lines extending from every part of the elements on the page. So like these like grid lines, right? So if I just drew a line right here so we can see the D starts right here. It looks like we can move this H over just a few pixels to make that line up perfectly. So you see how I did that there? And then other elements on the page, we're going to want to bring into alignment as well. So like this get started button right here, this isn't in alignment with anything right now. Okay, so if we were to draw a line extending from both sides, and I don't know if I'm being very clear with that, but let me show you what I mean. Like, so we have a line extending from here, a line extending from here. I always imagine a line extending from the center of it. And then also we'll have some horizontal lines extending from the top and the bottom of the button out that way. Does that make sense? I talk about it in the video, but you can see, I mean, I guess right here, this like left side of this button like almost aligns with the right side of this text, but that's not really strong. We have this really strong left line over here. So why don't we bring this get started button in line with that? Because we have space over here, right? There's not a whole lot of room for this image over here on the left. So we're gonna leave this image here for now, and we will talk about that when we get into proximity. Oh, and I actually skipped something. I wanted to talk about repetition next. Okay, I think repetition. Well, whatever. We'll do alignment. Sorry, I'm all over the place. So we have this really strong left line now. This is what I mean by alignment. We'll get rid of this. This is going to wind up over here on the right, just so we can add more balance to the design. So maybe I can show you a bit more how this slide will come together. So you see now, like once this image is bigger over here, it's going to start looking a bit more balanced, right? And once we align that better. But for now, we'll focus on alignment. I just want to show you why I'm like leaving that picture not aligned with what's over here. So alignment on this page. So it seems like we have a strong center line between this heading and this button, right? Oh, I deleted the line. We have these strong center lines going through this. So it seems like it would be smart to bring things in alignment with those center lines. So as everyone seemed to know and do just instinctually when they saw this slide, we're gonna have like a really simple like 2-column grid layout. We'll have this group of eating healthy stuff on the left and this exercising stuff on the right. So I'll just bring the button down. I'll extend this line down further. We will bring this eating healthy illustration between these items, and we can just bring this check mark like right beneath this button. And just to make sure we did it all well, I'll select all of these, and then I'll use that handy align center option in Storyline. So there we go. And then we'll do the same thing over here. So you notice I'm not just going to put this anywhere over here. We want to make sure that exercising is aligned with eating healthy. So I'm going to select them both and use this align top option. So now if we have a vertical or a horizontal line, let me show you. We'll start it right from the top here. We can move it down a few. You can see right here, it's a really strong vertical line, right? Really good alignment right there. So so that's what we're looking for. We're not just looking for alignment like vertically, but also horizontally when it makes sense to do so. So I'll select both of these images and align these to the top. This is going to obviously need to get center aligned. We'll take this piece down here. See, it's in perfect alignment with that left check mark and the text box at the top. And then finally, we'll drag this button over here as well. Perfect alignment with that button on the left. I'll select all of this now and just center align it. And this is okay. We'll improve on this a little bit more, but I just want to draw attention to that alignment first and foremost. Let me get rid of these lines. Does anyone have any question about alignment so far? And Jason's giving a pro tip. He's saying we can add these alignment buttons to the quick access toolbar so it's easier to locate. Cool. So let's see here. Oh, wow. Up here at the top. Nice. I did not know that, and I have not used that before. Good stuff. Cool. All right. So we have that strong vertical alignment, and these are aligned at the top. We're looking good on this page. Let's see how we're going to address this on these content pages. So right now, it looks like the illustration is aligned with this heading. That's okay, but we want to align the text over here on the left as well. Okay, and again, I'm kind of applying all of these rules. Like I'm gonna get into proximity. You want things closer together that are more closely related, and the text is obviously very related to that heading. So I'm just gonna plop the image over here, and we're going to bring this next button into alignment over here on the left. So there are our lines. We'll bring this horizontal line over here on the left and see how we're looking. All right, so now we have that really strong left line, and this is that alignment is looking good. Okay. Again, this will look better. We're trying to do these things one thing at a time. Let's see, eating healthy. Okay, we have that strong left line here. Let's make sure. Looks like we could maybe even move this over 1 or 2 pixels. There we go. And we want this continue button over here. So everyone sees what I'm doing here. Caitlin says, I find alignment easy until it gets complex, then it can be harder to find a strong alignment. Jessica says storyline should have guidelines. You can turn on guides actually. View guidelines, and then you can set the options like how spaced out you want this to be. 1 pixel. So you can play around with this, but yeah, it's not the same quality as something like Illustrator or the grid settings in the Adobe suite. So that is there in case you weren't aware of that. Cool. All right, but I'm just doing it with the actual shapes. So there we are with that. Let's see. Oh, and then to Caitlin's comment, I guess the idea is like you just don't want to be randomly placing objects on the page. You want to you want to try your best to align it to something. And let's talk about when things get a little bit more complex. So we have this really strong, or actually no, we won't yet. I'll talk about that soon. So if we were to just keep this aligned, we would move this to the left, and same thing with the submit button, we would move it to the left. Okay, there's some other stuff that we can do to this to make it look better, but for now, let's just see that nice strong alignment on the left-hand side. That's looking good. Okay, and then finally, this congrats page. We have stuff all out of alignment here, so let's try to bring it into alignment. I'll just drag stuff down here, and we'll start just lining it up on a new line here. Oops. All right, so this looks pretty good, I think. We'll use our little line tool to test it. Cool. Maybe we can move this over a little. Cool, looking good. All right, so far we've covered contrast and alignment. Tammy's mentioning we can use size and position to align objects, and that is true, but something to be aware of when you're trying to align text boxes is you notice we have some margin in this text box. And I've talked about this in previous crowdcasts, but if we align this to the left of this, like if we use, align left, you notice it's going to come out of alignment with the actual text because it's starting where the text box starts. So if we wanted to do that, we would have to first right-click this and go into Format Shape, and then go to Text Box, and then get rid of that left margin and make it 0. So you see now, if that margin is 0 when we left align this, it will actually be perfectly aligned. So good call out, Tammy, but just something to be aware of with that margin. That's why I wasn't doing it that way. Cool. All right, so contrast and alignment. Let's talk about repetition now. So this one is one of the most important ones, I would say. Just like with contrast, there are different elements of your design that you can repeat. So let me think of an easy example to show here. Let's go to like my website really quick. Let's make this small. So a good example of this is this like hamburger icon right here, right? So when you see something like this is on many different websites, it's repeated. And when that little menu icon is in the same space on every website, it becomes really clear to you what that item does, right? So you want to repeat your design elements. It makes it easier on the person using your designs to know how to use them effectively, so they're not relearning what things do on each page, okay? But you can also use repetition with color. So notice I'm using this black color, I'm using white, and I'm using this blue. So the blue is repeated, black, blue, blue. See these buttons, they're all very consistent. I'm still using this blue here for this little hyperlink. So buttons, that's what we're going to talk about specifically here. So you can see we have this button. These buttons are all different colors. We need to add some more consistency to that, right? Font. Okay, yeah, Caitlin Jordan, color, text, and shape. So text for sure. Notice I was setting all of these to size 24. All the headings we want to be the same size. This one's a bit more bolder, so we have like an even large, like a super heading almost. But notice I'm not using size 12 font here, and then 2 pages later, I'm like using size 10, and then on the next one, I'm using like size 14. That's a really easy trap to fall into, especially if you want to like make your text like fit a certain width or something. It's like, oh, I'll just change the size. But if you're consistent with the text size and fonts and stuff that you use, the design will look much more cohesive and professional. So definitely something to be aware of. Good call out on the font size, and even the language we're using. So get started. That makes sense for a title screen. Learn more. Okay, we're being consistent here and here. And let's actually use this new color as we go here. So let me just figure out what color this is. All right, so we have this 0065BD. I'm just going to copy that hex code, and now I'm going to start applying it to all of these. Oh, good, so it pre-filled it for me. So I'm just going to click on each of these and change that shape fill to this blue button color. Okay. So same thing here. So this one, notice that this button says continue. And if we look here, this one says next, right? And notice that this text is bold, but this text is not bold. So those little things are things that you want to be aware of. So we don't want to have this, this isn't consistent already. So let's make both of these bold, since that did seem to be more consistent with our design. So we're making the font weight bold, and let's make this one say continue, just to keep it consistent with how to move to the next screen. Okay? Because this one's moving us forward, whereas this is like a menu that's taking us into learning more about these different concepts. And the congratulations screen, these buttons are definitely not consistent. The colors aren't consistent, so let's make both of these colors white. And let's make the fill colors of the buttons this blue color that we're using as their accent color throughout the course. So I think I noticed that in a lot of these examples that people did is we were still using those different colored button colors, and we want to keep that consistent, okay? So that we know exactly what color and what size, shape, and everything our eyes should be drawn to when we want to go to the next screen. And you'll also notice if we preview this, we have a continue button here, but we also have the next and previous buttons from the player. So we don't need both of those things, right? We just want to use this continue button. And sometimes, and people who are e-learning designs, I see where sometimes there's a continue button I'm supposed to use, and sometimes there's no continue button and I'm supposed to press the next button. So that's, again, it's like, okay, how do I get to the next slide? It shouldn't be a challenge. They should have to learn that on the very first screen. Like, for example, in this case, we're using this blue button right here. This is how you move forward in this project. And then we're reusing that design element throughout all of these slides. All right, Nigel's asking if I use the format painter to copy colors or formatting. I don't, but that is an option. I've used it sometimes to copy states, but I've found it to be a little bit finicky. So how to use that? Where is that format painter? Somewhere in here. Oh, here it is right here on the home tab. So if I were to, let me just show people that functionality in case they're not familiar with it. So if you want to make this button match this button, you select the one that you want as like the template. You click on this format painter option, and then you just click this once or twice. Oh yeah, then you just click it once. So you see how easy that was? So you just click it, you can click the format painter and then click the next button. Cool. The blue buttons are matching the blue on the characters. Yeah, I think I pulled this from like that's this part of her leg, I'm pretty sure. Just to create some sort of brand color here. So and it's good to have it a little different than the pictures too, because we want it to be like attention grabbing, so that we know what to click, how to our call to action of how to act on this design to do something next. So that's good. That's repetition. I think we already had repetition in the text because you saw me, this was like size 20, I think, and I changed it to size 24 earlier. That was also to help illustrate, like, we want to be consistent in our sizes, as well as our colors, as well as how to interact with the course. So good stuff. Any questions about repetition? Oh, and Carlton was also asking about the recommended font size for the body of the e-learning project. So the reason size 12 looks so big here is because this story size is not very big. It's 720 pixels by 405. So when we open it up in a screen like this is size 12, but Storyline scales it up to fill the browser. So this is probably effectively a much larger font size than size 12, just because of the scaling Storyline does. So if this was like way bigger, if this was like size like 1400 width, size 12 text is going to look tiny compared to that. So I think you have to use your judgment sometimes. Yeah. You're gonna have to play around with it. You don't want it to look super small, but if it looks like this, like obviously that's legible, and obviously this is legible, and this, right? So I'm sure people just stayed with the same size 12 here, and this is what it looks like on my 27-inch monitor. So for me, this is like looking really big. Cool. All right. So the last group of things, and this is where things will actually start looking nicer. Proximity. Okay. So proximity, how close things are to one another, that signifies a relationship. So if you see here, Devlin Peck's guide to health and wellness, there's kind of a big gap right here, right? Like this is my guide to health and wellness, so I think I should move these things closer together. So you see now it looks much more like a subtitle to this course because they are closer together. Like, so we'll just focus on proximity first. So this is closely related, that's good. Get started, not super related. These are good. We kind of moved these closer together when we were working on this layout. Okay, I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. Again here, exercising, this is the title for this, and we probably want this to be a bit closer too, since this is defining that. So we're moving those closer together, but notice we're still giving them some room to breathe, right? We're not moving it right here, and that's where we get into negative space. Like having some negatives like this, all of this space right here in the center of the screen, you see all of this, like negative space, like this right here, this is negative space. Negative space, like, and right here, we don't have any negative space. So we want to give our designs room to breathe. That's how I think about it. It's like, let's give it some breathing room. We don't need things to be on top of each other. Like we can have them close together so you can tell they're related without having them like super cramped. And I'll notice this in some designs, like, if you have if you have like a button right here or at the bottom of the screen, if it's like this, like it's really cramped. You see, like there's no negative space or room for this to breathe right here. Okay, so let me bring this back into alignment. Looks good. So yeah, let's just keep working on this proximity here. So again, let's move this closer to the heading because we have this body text. What is it about? It's about eating healthy. So let's bring it closer. What else do we have here? The quiz. This is looking okay. Like the spacing is a little wonky here, and I'm gonna use a different approach with this slide when we start talking about balance. Okay, so let's just make sure there's nothing else for proximity. This is good. Yeah, this text is close to this heading, it looks like. Cool. All right, so any questions about this? Things are going to start really coming together now because we're going to talk about balance, okay? So let me find the best. Okay, the question slide is the best slide that we can use to talk about this. Let me move these out of the way. We want our designs to be well balanced. So like think of our page, like I think I described it in my video as like a scale. Like we don't want it to tip like too far in one direction. We want it to be things to be evenly distributed. We want to make full use of our whole page. So the problem right now, like yes, all of this stuff is aligned. We can obviously distribute the spacing better. See, now things are a bit more evenly spaced. We could probably move things up a bit too. There are things we can do to make this look a little bit better because now we have balanced spacing between these answer choices. But is anyone recognizing the bigger issue here? Oh, and I also noticed our submit button isn't bold, so I bolded that text as well to keep it consistent with the other buttons. So can anyone in the chat tell me how this is not balanced? Like, yeah, what's lacking here? What do we need to do? Yes, yeah, Janine, it's my right, but yeah, is he too much space on the right? Exactly. So that's the problem. So look at all of this. If we were to just turn this design into shapes, maybe this will help people think about it. Like, let's look at it like this. So this is our design. This isn't exactly balanced. So we have all this empty space. So let's start addressing that. So one way we can address that is by moving things horizontally like this to start filling out the page a little bit more. Okay. So see how this worked with our answer choices. It seems like we'll have some center alignment going on this page because of how we're reworking this. So let's center this text box. We'll make the text centered. And instead of imagining these answer choices as individual objects, what I'm going to do, I'm going to distribute them even. Oh, that's not going to work because we have some dead space on these. Let's see. So I'm going to pull this over here because I still want to take care of alignment. So I'm going to align this T with this question mark, and I'll move these over a little bit. And I'll align this option with this circle with this W right here, you see? So it's aligned pretty well. And now we want to distribute these a bit better. You see what I'm doing? I still want to have this like equal amount of space between these things, this negative space, so we have balance in between the options. It looks like we can probably move this over a little bit more to make it look more aligned. Okay. So this clearly doesn't solve our problem just yet because now we have a ton of space below this design, right? So let's select all of this. And now let's start bringing it down the page a bit more so we can have balance above and below this design. And I'm going to bring this button nice and centered right here too. Notice we're going to have these answer choices closer to the question that they're associated with, and the button is a little bit further below. So we're still using negative space, but we're using a little bit more negative space between the button and the options because the options are more closely related to the question. Right? And the button is not far behind, right? It would be bad if we had the button down here because we still want that button pretty close, and we still have this nice balance. So I'm going to group all of this now and show you. So I'm going to select all of this. I'll press Control G to group it, and now I'm going to align it to the middle of the page. Okay, so let's look at this now. So here's this, you know. If we're going to do the box approach, like, so it's not perfect. Like it's obviously, not completely balanced, but you can see now it's like definitely a lot more symmetrical, I think we can say. And it looks like we have the same amount of space. Let me make this one a different color. We have the same amount of like dead space of negative space above and below this design. Actually, it looks like we can move it up a little bit. So let's do that. So I'll get rid of these black boxes. Oh, no, this just wasn't at the top. I'm silly. But it's okay. Yeah, I think this should be down a little bit. Sorry, I'm playing around with this one a lot. Just trying to give an idea. Is this helping people? Is this good? Can you make it 2 rows of 2 questions each row? Yeah, we could do that. We don't want it to be super spaced out. Like I don't think we would want to have the rows. Like I'm choosing to maintain this alignment on the left and the right, right? So Nigel's asking, can we do like this? Like if we did it like this, we would still have that alignment, but now obviously our proximity is like all out of whack. And this doesn't look super great because these are out of alignment, right? So I'm kind of viewing this like this is kind of an equal size. If we view this as one shape, this is like an equal size as this text box. So that's why I was aligning it like this to try to make it look, more like that. All right, whoops. So I don't think we'll spend a ton of time on this slide, but that's the idea. I'll bring these things here to make them, to make this actually function. These are just hotspots. And when you click the hotspot, it changes the state of the ovals. So let's start at the beginning. That was probably the most complex example. Let's look at this one. So again, things I'm looking at. Let's look at the space above this, and we're looking at the space down here. This clearly is not the same amount of space. I brought this down, right? Yeah. Yeah, not the same amount of space. So we want to do something about that. We want to make this more balanced. Let's see how we want this in relation to this button. We want these things closer to each other than we want the button to the text, but we still want it close enough, right? So I'll group these items. We will align this to the middle of the page. And now that's looking much more balanced over here on the left. We can probably even give a little bit more breathing room. You know, we have a little bit of room over here. That's okay. But we could probably move it out a little bit more. And let's size this up a little bit. We'll align this to the middle. Okay, and actually it's looking a little too big. You see, like, it's kind of creeping up on the S in wellness. And this is kind of like a big object. So okay, so now you see it's a bit more sized appropriately to like match this. If we think of this over here as one shape, as one rectangle, we want this rectangle to be like about the same size to keep it balanced. So we'll move it out here on the right. We want to try to get the same general amount of space that we have over here on the left as on the right. So I'm going to move that over a bit more. How are we feeling about this? A bit more balanced. You know, we could play around with the sizing a little bit here to make it look better probably, because it is a bit of a weird shape, the illustration itself. But let's keep going through this, applying it to more and more. Eating healthy and exercising. So this is a bit cramped here. Like you can see here, the illustration to the top of this, like there's not enough negative space in here. It's feeling a little bit cramped. So let's deal with this one side at a time, actually. Let me move this down. I'll move this button down a bit. We want the check mark probably pretty close to this whole, it's kind of like a card, right? Like you see those card designs. So it's kind of like, if we're thinking of this like a card, you know, it's like, how are we organizing this card? We want everything to be pretty cohesive and close together, but we don't want things to be cramped. So let's move this down a little bit. Let's keep this fairly close to the illustration. Oops. Okay, I think this is looking pretty good. It seems like we probably have this, and I use these shapes all the time to like measure this kind of stuff. So we can see here, looks like we could probably move this down a little bit so that we're not overstepping this lady's foot. Okay, I'll move that back up a pixel or two. We'll get rid of these rectangles. So there we are. You see how nice and like this design looks really balanced. It's almost like a triangle, like going down, and things are all fairly close together and easy to see what's going on here. So let's do the same treatment with this. I'll bring this down. I will align it with the top. And what we can actually do before I do that is let's group all of this, like I was saying. I'll Control G. I'll align it to the middle of the page. Just, you know, brought it up a few pixels. And what that does is it makes sure that we have the same amount of space above and below this like card. And again, actually, this is going to be one of those things where it plays with our eyes a little bit, because this text box doesn't go to the top of the text doesn't go to the top of the text box. So you see this group is like starting like 20 pixels above the actual words. So it's not going to work to use that align middle button. We're going to have to do it a bit more manually. So I think this is good where we have it right here. Let's go with that. We'll align exercising with the top. Well, let me ungroup this. I'm going to do Control-Shift-G. We'll align exercising with the top of eating healthy. And let's do the same treatment here. Let's align this check mark to the bottom of the check mark on the left. Same thing with the buttons, because you notice I'm keeping alignment in mind throughout all of this. I want to make sure that this is in perfect alignment with what's over here. Okay. And let's compare these images. Looks like this guy can move his feet up a little bit. And let's drag this back over. So I'll probably actually, maybe I can make him a little bit smaller and that would look better. This is okay. I think you guys get the idea. Like this little line right here is a little closer than I would like. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add a little shape, a little white rectangle to get rid of this line. Because I don't like it. It's coming up on exercising too hard. Okay, there we go. It's just a floating boxing bag. That's okay. The exercise picture is smaller than that of eating healthy. Yeah, the guy does look a little bit smaller. Let's see. but you notice like the height is about the same, right? So I think it's like an optical illusion type thing here, but that's okay. I mean, yeah, we probably could do a little bit of a wider picture, but we're working with what we've got. So there we are, and we have a lot of space right here in the middle. It seems like we could bring both of these things in a bit more, right? So let's do this. So let's bring this over a little bit. Let's do the same with this. And now what I'll do is I'll group all of this. So I've talked about this in previous workshops. So I'll do Control G to group this, and then I'll align it to the center, and then I'll ungroup it. Okay. So we have a little bit less space here. We might even be able to bring that closer together. It might look a little better. Also, these check marks aren't going to appear until later. So I think I might actually want to move this down to make the initial design a little bit more balanced. So let's see how this looks. Oh yeah, and it's all white, so it's going to blend in with the background, so that's fine. And let's get rid of these next and previous buttons, because like I said, we don't need those if we have all the buttons on the screen. So I'm going to hold down Control and click on all these different slides. And then over here on the right, I'm going to just turn off the buttons and the swipes. So I turned off all of that, and now when we preview one of these, we won't have those next and previous buttons. Cool. Looking at that slide, I think we can move this up a little bit. Good. All right, what do we have left? So we did this question slide. This is one of the toughest ones. Oh, we didn't do these ones yet. Okay, good. I'll try to move through this a little bit quicker here. So let's see. Let's make this text box a bit wider, because again, we have the whole length of this heading. So let's move that out. Let's move this down the page a little bit. We want that balance at the top and the bottom, like I was referring to. So I'll just get that spacing block right up there for me. We'll keep the continue button close to this, but because we want it to still be part of this. Like, you read the text and then you click continue. It's like guiding their eye to what they need to do next. You see, that's where alignment comes in. So you're following down this line. We don't want this continue button to be like all the way at the bottom of the page. We want to keep it nice and close. But we don't want it to be we don't want it to be closer to the text or as close to the text as the heading, because these two items are more closely related. Sorry if I'm starting to repeat myself a lot. I'm just trying to really drive these points home. So it looks like we need to make this spacing a little bit smaller if we want to keep it even. And this looks like it will work a bit better. It won't be perfect, but I think this will be closer to what we want. So you see, I'm not redoing the shapes, but by eye, I'm seeing this is about the same amount of space between. So there we go. And now let's see how we're going to handle this. So we're aligning middle, and I keep aligning middle. It's because also on the slide, I'm imagining that we have these, these lines going through the slide. So when I'm doing a design like this, I'm picturing this right here as like a card on its own, right? So this is like one item. That's how I'm viewing it. And now we have this big image right here. And just on contrast, like just to help you think about all the different ways you can think about contrast, like even this is contrast. We have this plain black text and then this really colorful illustration next to it. So hopefully you're getting the effect that, yeah, it's a kind of an interesting visual slide just because of, this plain text and this nice colorful illustration. So again, I'm just playing around with the spacing a little bit. Don't want too much spacing in the middle. For repetition, like if you were actually going through this, you would want this margin on the left to be the same throughout your slides. You don't want to be on this slide and it's here, and then on the next slide, you like start the text all the way out here. So that's another general thing to keep in mind. I'm obviously not paying super close attention to that here, but what you would do is, you can look at the X position, like where this is starting. This right here, all the way on the left is 0. And then as you go up the pixels, we're starting at the 29 pixels. So if I set this to 0, you see it's perfectly aligned out here. So I use these coordinates over here when I want to make sure that things are placed exactly the same across slides. Cool. All right. Does the player control? Okay, I'm not keeping up with the chat. I want to make sure I get through this. So let's so I'll take a look at the questions at the end, but I hope that's clear. We'll do the same treatment for this exercising slide. Probably here's a good time to do that. Let's make this width the same width, because you can see the width here is 336. Let's make the width 234 like we have on this eating healthy slide. So we'll make this width 234. Good. And let's make this placement the same. So we'll start it at the heading at 2870. So 28x 70y. So we'll do 28 and 70. And the body text we will do at 29 119. Continue button, we'll move down. And so you can see like there are rules of thumbs and there are things to keep in mind, but sometimes you're going to have to make calls. Like, is it better to use alignment here or better to keep a better balanced design? Is it better to keep this repetition going, or is it better to get better balance on the slide? Like, those are calls you'll have to make. But hopefully this is giving you the right kind of, helping you look for the right types of things so that you can make those decisions. Because right here, clearly we have a lot of like dead space here in the center that I'm not loving. Let me see something really quick. Yeah, I don't want to get too caught up on this. Part of me wants to make this text box like a bit wider on fewer lines, bring this over. I think we get the idea though. So I'm just going to undo that. Like, we would want to address this probably. Let's see. Because this is a much wider picture and this isn't. But that's okay. And let's look, okay, the quiz, we've got that looking good. And then the congratulations. Let's, we have this big box over here. Let's size this guy up. Congratulations, you made it to the finish line. And let's treat this stuff like a card over here as well. I think this spacing is looking okay. It could definitely be better. Let's space this out a little bit. Come on. So I'm gonna leave, and we'll make this wider to align well with align better with the title. Sorry. Okay. So you see, I'm just trying to make it a bit more balanced. Again, we're running out of time. I do want to leave you with a little teaser here. There are times when you may decide to break these concepts to draw attention to specific things or to convey meaning. So for example, we were talking about being consistent with your buttons. Now you might have seen this here. Maybe there's a primary action and a secondary action. So the main action we want to draw attention to is to exit the course, but some people might want to restart the course. We don't want to give that equal like visual weight in this design. So maybe we get rid of this shape fill. Maybe we make the text or the font color, the text color, this blue color. And then we give the shape an outline. So you've probably seen this on some websites. And we'll make the outline this blue color as well. So you see now, we can still tell that this is a button. It's still using the colors that we're using, but it is obviously not as important in the design as this exit course option. Okay. So same thing, like we've had all of these layouts where the text is on the left and the image is on the right. But when we get to a slide like this, it's kind of showing us, I'm not loving how this slide is looking. So that's why I keep playing around with this, because these lines over here, like I keep wanting to align things to it. You know what, maybe we can just align these buttons like to the center of that line. Maybe that will look better. I don't know. You can play around with this kind of stuff all day, but you get the idea. We broke the repetition here because we wanted to convey a different meaning with this button. This button is not as, you probably don't want to restart the course. You probably want to exit it. Yeah, see all the text on the left. So let's see what we did. Let's look at this whole thing. All right, the guide to health and wellness. Here we go. Nice, nice. We have that strong left alignment. All right, middle alignment here looks good. Boom, boom. And notice those cards are pretty separated. We could tell they were distinct cards. This all here, it's close together. I can just read left across this to find what I want. You know, here's the question. This alignment guides me down to the answer choices, and then I'm guided down to the submit button. So very intuitive, I would hope, of what to do here. And congratulations, we did it. Looks like the congrats is a little aligned to the guy's head. He's looking at it, so that's always good. You want to, if you have like characters, like I think there's a lot of research showing that where the characters are looking is where it directs like the person's eyes who's going through the experience. So I like how that worked out. And here we go, exit the course. This nice primary call to action. Cool. So how are we doing with that? Do we have any questions about this? Was this helpful for people? Anything you learned here that you weren't, any big takeaways? And also any questions. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Okay, Japanese asks where I found the illustrations. Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. So it's getillustrations.com. So they have this really big illustrations bundle that are really cool. Let me show you. How can we view the bundle? So they have all of these different illustration packs with these different styles, and there are like tons of them. So you see they're really neat, and there aren't just these three. Like each one of these packs has like dozens of illustrations inside. So they had a Black Friday deal, so I got like all of these bundles and like a bunch of icon packs for like $150 or something. But it's only $195 right now, which isn't too bad, and you get all of these. So really good illustration packs for little projects like this, or simple e-learning projects. So there's all sorts of different packs in here, as you can see. So good question. All right, cool. Yeah, using the shapes to check for consistent spacing, that's a good practice. I do that a lot. I don't know if everyone does that, but it helps me. Patsy says she's ready to head back and nitpick the design of her own course. Nice. If anyone wants to try to apply these principles in a different way to like this story file, like feel free to fix it up and send it and post it in the Slack or something, and I can give you some feedback and stuff just to help you make sure you have a good handle on them. And everyone's always learning. Like I'm not like this super professional designer. Like I've just been learning these things over the years as I've had to get better at them, because I started at like absolute square zero. And yeah, I've just been trying to apply these main 4 principles: contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity. And yeah, I've just been getting better and better, but still obviously have a long way to go. But those principles help a lot, applying them for sure. Cool. Maureen says she'll be updating her portfolio with those tips. Nice. Yeah, Christy commented on negative space and balance. Yeah, that's something that I don't know if that was brought up a lot in the non-designer's design book, but that's something that I've picked up too and started to keep an eye out for. So those parts are good. Negative space and balance. Negative space is part of your design. I've seen that explained in like videos and articles and stuff. So don't just think about the elements you're adding as the elements of your design, but also think about that negative space like as a shape. I think that really helped me conceptualize it. All right, goodbye everybody. Thank you for hanging out here until the end. And if you have any other questions about this, feel free to ask them in the Slack. So bye-bye.